Hello and welcome to the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser along with Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator, here to bring you up to date on what's new in Maple Grove and a look back at the most recent council meeting. Welcome again, Heidi.
Thank you.
Let's start with the council meeting, and the first topic of discussion was street maintenance. Tell us about the season ahead of us, a pretty big project coming this year.
Yeah, so pretty routine business for the city. Every year we pick a segment of roads to do street maintenance on. It's really kind of our time to go in and do a little reconstruction of the roads. They have it scheduled out on kind of a 5-year basis. They break it down into the neighborhoods and then pick those neighborhoods that those streets are ready for some maintenance on or reconstruction, and then get that programmed out. They try to make it neighborhoods that are close to each other, get some efficiencies out of the contractor and whatnot. So this year it's really, it's the area north of 93rd and then just east of Elm Creek Boulevard. I'm sorry, south of 93rd and east of Elm Creek Boulevard, north of 89th. So those neighborhoods in there will be doing that. Little bit bigger project this year, about 800 homes impacted. Usually it's a little bit smaller than that. So kind of a big project for us this year. Quite a bit of interest to folks in the audience that evening. Pretty routine questions. I think people are always generally concerned about the assessments and whatnot.
Exactly.
The city's policy has been kind of a long-standing one where the city contributes 50% of the cost of the road reconstruction. Any of the utility costs that are associated with the project, if we have to replace water main or whatnot, those are all borne by the city, part of our utility funds. And then 50% of the project is assessed out to the homeowners. It turns out to be right around that $4,500 mark for a single-family home, which can be assessed over a 20-year period for the homeowners. The multifamily assessments are around kind of a $2,700 mark. So that's been the city's program for many years, and pretty consistent with how other cities deal with street maintenance as well.
So if that area sounds a little familiar to you, as we were talking before the program, we're going 89th Avenue, summertime in Maple Grove, maybe the area of the Maple Grove Parade and where many people park throughout that event. So you might want to make note of that, and I'm sure the city will have information out if that does indeed impact people with the parade timing. Let's move ahead to a development item, the Enclave at Dunlaven Woods. Tell us a little bit about this. I know we've talked a little bit about it in the past.
Yeah, so this project has been on the council's agenda and planning commission agenda a few times now, gone through the development review process. So this is really about getting the public improvements done, the streets, utilities, and whatnot. So this was a public hearing to order those plans and receive the surety for the project and get going on that. This is about a 30-lot subdivision up there, just south of 101st. So we'll see that one come online this summer.
So certainly the continual progress out towards the northwest portion of Maple Grove is indeed happening. Let's talk about Prestige Preschool Academy. Again, we mentioned it on past programs in the Central Park area. Tell us a little bit about this business that's coming to town. Yeah,
so this was a PUD concept stage review, and so we'll get a lot more detail when they come through at the next phase, the development stage. But this was really just kind of looking at the site plan, how the building will sit on the site, how the circulation will work and whatnot. We'll get a little bit more into the architecture and particulars about the building as it comes forward next time. But there was at Planning Commission a lot of talk about parking, how traffic would get in and out of the site. It's a busy area over there, and so the developer's working to address some of those things. But it did receive approval here at the council meeting on Monday night, so that one will be moving forward to the development stage. It is just to the south of the Sky Apartment project, and then of course across the street to the west is the Central Park. So kind of a nice location for that use, and there's a lot of housing in that area. So I think it'll be a service that is valued by the community and the residents that live there.
Very good. So again, those were some of the 3 big items at the council meeting, but it's always neat at the meetings too to hear the updates from staff so you can hear from some of the other departments. Dick Edwards talking about maybe what's coming up, planning and council-wise. Give us a little preview of what we'll be talking about in the next month or two. Yeah,
so we have kind of a busy Planning Commission City Council agenda for development projects coming up here this spring. We'll see the Village at Arbor Lakes come back. This is the project kind of the fourth corner of the Arbor Lakes fountain area. It's the area just to the east of Hemlock. And this is the Kelly Doran project. It has, the southern piece of it is commercial and the northern part is residential. We've been kind of going back and forth with the developer on this one a little bit, but they withdrew their plans and then resubmitted with a new proposal. The development, the buildings and the uses are pretty much the same. This comes forward with the required platting and the dedication of the right-of-way that the city was seeking for this project to make sure that those road connections were made. So this one's going to come back in front of the Council and Planning Commission here in March and April.
Okay, we will give you an update on that as it moves. Now, grocery fans in the city of Maple Grove, there's more good news. Tell us about Hy-Vee 1 and now maybe Hy-Vee 2.
Yeah, so we, a few weeks back, received a submittal for a Hy-Vee out at 101 and Bass Lake Road. This is the markets at Rush Creek. This was a project that had been envisioned some time ago, but then kind of had some issues during the economic downturn, and now is coming back, and Hy-Vee will be the anchor user there. 96,000 square foot grocery store, full service grocery and gas there on that corner. I think for that west side of town, certainly an asset. There hasn't been a lot of services over there in terms of grocery and whatnot, so I think a lot of those residents that live on the west side will be happy about that.
Agreed.
They followed closely on the heels with a proposal up on the north side of town, just kind of directly across the street from Super Target, up around the new 610 extension area. So that's what we're calling Hy-Vee North, and we have Hy-Vee West.
Okay.
So they are looking to build a store up in that area as well. Again, similar footprint, full service grocery with some gas services as well. So you'll be seeing that one come forward. Same up in that Grove area, we have a proposal for a 25,000 square foot medical office building up there. So we're seeing continued interest in the Grove area, and we'll probably see the build out of that area over the next couple of years. So it's going to be a busy spring and summer for development application review and then getting into the construction season.
And it gives us a lot more to talk about here.
Absolutely.
So we'll have a fun time updating you. And we always do related to transportation. Ken Ashfield got up at the meeting and talked about his two favorite freeways, 494 and 610. Let's start 494. What is the latest there? And there's a meeting coming up where especially business people from the area can learn a little bit more. What's happening?
Yeah, so they'll get started again on construction on 494 this spring. I think, you know, it feels like winter's over. We could still get a little bit of a bout of it, but it seems like the construction season will probably start early this year, which is a good thing. It allows us a little more time, and hopefully they'll complete projects before the snow flies again in the winter.
Yes.
So 494 will get underway. This is the completion of adding that third lane. There will be a meeting on March 21st from 11 to 1, and that's going to be at the Plymouth Library. It's primarily focused, the public is welcome to attend, but a lot of the focus will be on the business community, letting them know what the impacts will be. But clearly there will be lane restrictions, lane closures, those kinds of things as they work to get that third lane done. But the goal, you know, their timeline is to have that all done before the end of the year. So what a gift that'll be when we have 3 lanes from the Fish Lake split down to 394.
Happy. Yes. So March 21st at the Plymouth Library, and again, information on the city's website if people are interested to find out more details about that. My guess would be you'll be updating throughout the year too when lanes change and things happen. Look to find out more. Let's talk about 610, talk about lanes changing. Now things are really going to get interesting as you head out County 81 where 610 and 81 change. Give us a little preview of what's happening there. Yeah,
so same conditions, and as you drive up 94 you can see them working on some of those bridge abutments, the new bridge crossings there. So they've picked up that work again here in the late winter, and they will be beginning some of the main road construction components over the next few weeks here and into the summer season. We'll have some impacts on 81 as people come into town. They might want to think about that route that they're taking. I'm not sure up in this neck of the woods we're going to have another difficult summer of road construction, so there probably aren't going to be a lot of great alternatives, but again, things will be better once we get to the end of the year. But there will be lane restrictions and some lane closures on 81 as they construct kind of those flyover bridges as 610 heads west. In addition, Maple Grove Parkway at some point here later into the spring will be closed. So you won't be able to kind of go north there of Target up to 81. And then also it impacts the yard waste site where folks are used to going. Of course, the access point has changed now out to the Parkway, but once Maple Grove Parkway closes, as they proceed with that construction, that site's going to have to be accessed from the north. They'll open the Parkway back up
Right.
once those bridges are constructed, but clearly there will be some impacts this summer from the 610 project. Again, the goal is it's to be done by the end of the year, and that will, I think, make everybody's life a little bit easier, take a lot of pressure off of 81,
Exactly.
I think, and make that transition from 81 and 610 out to 94 a lot easier. And we've mentioned in past shows that we're still working on funding for the balance of those connections to make 610 kind of fully functional. So legislative session started yesterday. We are in pretty close contact with our local legislators on this matter, and supplying them information and coordinating as best we can. We just really want to stay on their radar and express the importance of us getting this last leg of it done. It would be wonderful if we could just kind of keep rolling and get the rest of it completed in short order here. So, but it is going to be a big season of construction.
All right, be ready out there. You might want to give a little extra time if you head to the Yardways site. And speaking of that site, you mentioned that it will be open, and the date of that is April 1st, correct?
That's
for people?
correct. That's correct. Yep, April 1 is the day.
So if you're raking right now, hold off just a little bit, because it's going to be a few more days until that site opens up. Another follow-up to your talk about the legislative session. So obviously 610, one of the issues that they're looking at, but also talk a little bit about the gravel mining area. I know in talking to Mayor Stephenson, that seems to be one of the other key points for Maple Grove.
It is.
What is that discussion?
Sure. So in 2014, the city received some special legislation on a tax increment financing district for the gravel mining area.
Right.
And it was set up really to deal with sort of some of the challenges of development out there, extraordinary costs dealing with soil deficiency, infrastructure, whatnot. And we got the language in 2014. We're going back this year just to make kind of a minor language change. And that minor language change really is just, it's really about giving the city some flexibility in how it sets up districts out there.
Okay.
Mainly because of the changing nature of the land. They're mining, they're moving things around, and to qualify a district, there has to be certain percentages of the land that have that deficiency, that soil deficiency.
Okay.
And so as the land kind of changes and shifts, we need to be flexible in order to kind of establish what those percentages are. And so we're going back to the legislature this year for just a minor language change that will help us with that. So, but we're looking forward to getting that tax increment financing plan in place so that we can, we'll talk about a little bit with the goals here. We can kind of be ready with some packages when we think about economic development out in the gravel mining area, particularly around job creation.
Okay, we'll keep you up to date on that. Let's jump right ahead to the goals. They've got some beautiful sheets here with information. You'll probably be seeing these on the websites and other places around town. So 2016 through 2018 goals, you've been busy talking about some of these things, and obviously with you being new, there's been a lot of information gathering on your part. First, just before we talk about specifics, why is this important? Why is now the right time to look ahead at something like this?
Sure. So at the end of February, the City Council sat down in a planning session, and really the impetus of it was I think a couple things. One, just a change in leadership. Anytime you have somebody new coming on board, I think it's good to sit down and just kind of talk about what's on the council's mind. What are they worried about? What are they thinking about? What's their vision?
Right.
And the council hadn't done this for some time, so we took a Saturday, and kind of locked everybody in a room, and we provided updates to the council about where we're at with all of the departments. And then we just talked about kind of what's on their mind and what are their goals for the upcoming years. And the department directors all had input into that as well. So I think it's really important to do these types of things on a somewhat regular basis, particularly very helpful for me coming in to hear from all the directors and the council, and then sort of set a course going forward so that we know what we're supposed to be focusing on and what the council's comfortable with. So the outcome of that session, very robust discussion. We kind of bucketed things into 5 big goal areas, and I'll kind of walk through those.
Let's do it.
And this is something that we'll be referring to providing updates to the council. You'll see things come through the council agenda that are related to this.
Okay.
And we'll be providing updates and something that we'll cover on this program too as we
Perfect.
go forward on the progress that hopefully we're making as we
bet.
move forward over the next couple of
certainly
years.
keep people up to date on the bullet points. So the first you mentioned earlier, economic development. Tell
Yep.
us about the program or just the initial thoughts here.
Yeah, so the goal was to create a proactive economic development program to address retention, expansion, and recruitment of industry in Maple Grove. So it's not only about what development might come to town, but really making sure what we have, that we're in tune with our businesses that are in town. We're understanding what expansion needs they might have, any workforce issues that they're having, and how might we as a city help facilitate some of those things so that we keep our businesses happy and wanting to stay and expand in Maple Grove. And so kind of a multifaceted program. There's support to bring on a staff person
Okay.
in the economic development capacity, and so we're going to be doing that. But we really, it's also about resource, but it's also about creating that program. So what are the tools and incentives that we want to use to bring new projects to town?
Right.
How are we going to deal with expansion opportunities? And then being that resource for the local business community for whatever needs that they might have. We also want to sort of be a sounding board. Certainly a lot of businesses have concerns about taxes and those kinds of things.
Right.
And so we need to be aware of those kind of business climate issues and be a resource to our local businesses as well.
Very good. I see under one of the bullet points the gravel mining area. Again, one of those thoughts within economic development. So a lot will be happening there, and we'll keep you up to date on that. Comprehensive plan update. Talk
Yep.
about that progress, and that's something that reaches even further out.
It does. And so we are in the process of, we need to get going on our comprehensive plan update. It's due to the Met Council in 2018, so we have just a little shy of 2 years to get that done. And again, focus will be primarily in the 610 and the gravel mining area.
Right.
These are kind of our remaining areas for development. We just really want to check the land use up there and make sure that we have the flexibility to allow for the development to occur up there. I think as we think about what's occurred, the great success Maple Grove has had to date in the development that's occurred, I think everybody kind of feels like the retail is done, and now we really want to focus on kind of bringing jobs to town and then finishing that out with residential that helps to serve and create neighborhoods. So sort of this economic development piece, and then how the comp plan ties into that, because
Right.
it sets sort of the land use and transportation and all the system needs that'll be there to support that development activity.
One of the points I see here is community engagement. So tell me a little bit more about that, and what can residents maybe look forward to as far as their opportunity to talk about that plan?
Yep. So we'll have opportunities over the upcoming months where open houses where people can come in and chime in on what land uses and what systems we're looking at for the comprehensive plan update. We also need to make sure we're going to be connecting with some of the major landowners, kind of understanding their goals, vision, and timing, so that what we end up with in the comp plan kind of sits up against that as well. So opportunities for the public to get involved and provide feedback throughout the process.
Very good. Item number 3 on the goal list has to do with that great technology out there, information systems. Tell
Yep.
us a little bit about maybe some of the staffing there and just this exploding area. It has to be one that you're always trying to catch up to
Yep.
in any organization.
Yeah, and so the other goals are really more kind of organizationally focused
Okay.
within the organization, but information systems clearly an important piece of what we do on a daily basis. So many things have now become just technology driven,
Right.
and there's opportunities to create more efficiencies and do things a little bit smarter. So wanting to really prioritize that. We had an IS director a number of years ago. That position was vacated. We've had great management staff there, but I think the council's focus was to kind of really bring some new leadership to that area,
Okay.
and get a better focus on those IS opportunities and efficiencies that we might be able to work towards as an organization. So
Okay.
it kind of touches every aspect of what we do
Right.
nowadays.
It
So-
certainly does. Yeah, you can't go to a department and
Right.
not have that be a part of it.
Yes.
Planning staff and staff development. Tell us a little bit about what you're looking for in the way of staff. And we talked about this earlier in other programs, succession planning. It's something that's always important, especially with the age and retirement of some of the people from the city.
Yeah, so not unlike many organizations throughout, whether they're city or corporate, we're kind of facing about 26% of our workforce over the next 5 years will likely retire or be retirement eligible.
Right.
71% of our leadership team. And so really it's, we're at a point where we really need to be thinking about how do we plan for the future, how do we plan for those departures, how are we developing our staff. It just, so much institutional knowledge walks out the door when people retire. So how are we documenting that and preparing for those transitions? So that's going to be a big area of focus over the next 5 years. And there's always opportunity then, you know, when there's a retirement or somebody leaves a position, it's an opportunity to kind of look at structure and say, you know, is this the best way that we can be structured and be delivering services? And so we'll be looking at those things as well.
Okay, and item number 5, the last item, streamline administrative and hiring processes. So somewhat relates to what we were just talking about. Tell us a little bit more about that point. Yeah,
so I think this was just a desire to, you know, be willing to look at our processes and decide, you know, are we doing this because it still brings value and we need to, or are we doing this just because we kind of always have?
Right.
And you know, just coming into the organization, you sort of look at things, and there's a lot of things that you that end up on a council agenda that really could just be an administrative process.
Okay.
It doesn't sacrifice controls in the organization, or you know. It still gets us to the same place, but it just reduces kind of what's on the council's plate a little bit. And then also sort of streamlining the council's involvement from with the hiring process and focusing it kind of towards the end of that hiring process. Again, just kind of streamlining their workload, but also streamlining our internal workload at City Hall, and then hopefully redirecting those resources towards you know, things that need attention.
So the million-dollar question for you is, do they all happen at the same time, or can you prioritize them? Is there going to be a process of going through these, or do they all kind of have to evolve together?
I think all of these kind of move forward at the same time. And there'll be different areas that different staff within the organization will be responsible. You know, for instance, Dick Edwards and his team will be working on the comprehensive plan. We have, you know, IS staff that'll be kind of working on how do we integrate better IS into all of our departments. HR, thinking about the succession planning. So it's really something that it's kind of a continuum of work that we'll be doing over the next couple of years.
Sounds like some great planning, and again, an interesting process ahead, so we will keep you up to date as that moves on. We've got about 5-6 minutes left. Let's jump over some other things happening in town. We again talked about the yard waste site, kind of the first thing that happens in April. Shortly after that, get your calendars marked for the next indoor farmers market is on April 10th. And Heidi, that's the last of the indoor, and then you start thinking outdoor.
I think it's actually April 14th. The March date is 10th.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Just in case folks are thinking about coming out. So this show, likely you've seen it once March 10th comes around.
Missed that one.
But April 14th, and then you're right, then they do go outside. So this will be the last inside one there in April, from 3 to 6 p.m. at the community center on those Thursday afternoons.
And I understand they have vendors signing up on a regular basis, so you're going to see some exciting booths out there. Let's talk about property taxes. It's that time of year again when everyone loves to run to their mailbox and find that slip in there. Tell us about what people will be seeing from Maple Grove and their opportunity to maybe give some feedback.
So this is property tax statements will be coming out over the next probably month or so. You'll see yours show up in your mailbox. The Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting is on April 12th at 7 p.m. at City Hall. This is the opportunity to come in and talk about the value that's been assigned to your property for the 2017 payable year. I know a lot of times people kind of sometimes will come to the budget hearing and want to talk about the value of their property, and the value issue is really settled much earlier in the budgeting process, and so that's why those hearings are held in April. So if you want to come in and talk about the market value that's been set for your property, the time is now. We do that in April. Once we get to the point of the budget later into November and December, then we're really just talking about what the budget is and what your taxes are going to be. So just so that people kind of clarify those two different parts of the city fiscal year. This really, on the front end, is your opportunity to talk about that value piece.
And I know the city staff has always been willing in the past, and I'm sure now, to talk ahead of that meeting. So
Absolutely.
if people do get something in the mail and
Yep.
immediately you think, what is this? I don't understand these numbers, or I wonder how this came to be, they can certainly call the city and your staff will help out. Is that right?
Absolutely. Call the assessing department.
Okay.
In fact, they really appreciate it if they get a heads up, because a lot of times they need to look up kind of the history of a property
Okay.
or pull the property file to kind of understand why something might have been changed. And so if they can do that ahead of time, ahead of the meeting, sometimes that can be a lot more efficient way to, and be able to be responsive to people's questions. So we really do encourage people to reach out early if they have questions, and certainly, we're always, our staff is available at that meeting that evening, and they have that information available, but a little bit harder in that public venue to be kind of doing all that research work. But,
Exactly.
yeah.
So if you make that call, you might not have to attend the meeting. It might
That's true.
save you a free evening.
Yep.
Let's talk about May 5th, the annual Mayor's Prayer Breakfast coming up once again, and
Yep.
that is usually held at Rush Creek, which I believe again is the site. Tell us a little bit about that event.
That's correct. Again, at Rush Creek Golf Club, Thursday, May 5th. 7:15 in the morning. There's information on our website if you want to register
Okay.
to that. And it was in the city newsletter this month as well that went out. The keynote speaker this year will be Rich Sherber, and he's with Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge. So I think that's a good speaker, and of course features buffet breakfast and some music and whatnot. So kind of a nice community celebration in the spring. So if people are interested, they should reach out. I think you can register through Carol at City Hall.
Okay, very
Yep.
good. And sometimes it does fill up, so you might have to get your reservation in early. Let's touch on just a minute Arbor Day festivities. April 30th is the date, noon to 4 p.m. That's going to be at the Maple Grove Community Center, and you would think, oh, was it just going to be a tree planting or something? But no, it's much more than that this year. Tell us about that event.
Yeah, so the Arbor Committee organizes this event April 30th at the Community Center, as you noted. Lots of different aspects. They kind of fill up the whole big space there at the Community Center. The Raptor Center is there. The Reptile and Amphibian Discovery Zoo is there. There's lots of free gifts and handouts that are provided that day. A lot of things having to do with trees, but general yard and landscaping type issues as well. So we really encourage people to come out. Usually a fun day, lots of things for the kids to do as well.
All right, lots of dates we're throwing at you. Go to the
Yes.
website to find out more about those specific dates and activities. One final note while we have a minute, seasonal employment through the city of Maple
Yep.
Grove. A lot of times people don't think about jobs through the city, or specifically teens, college students think about job opportunities in a city, but
Yep.
you have them. Tell us a little
have
bit
lots
about
of them.
what they are and how people go through that process.
Yeah, so we, on an annual basis, the city of Maple Grove employs roughly about 500 part-time and seasonal employees. It's a very big piece of our workforce, and mainly because a lot of our, the activity level goes up in the summertime, whether
Right.
it be at the community center, in the outdoor pool, those kinds of things. The parks, mowing and upkeep of the parks and whatnot. Some in the streets and utilities department as well. So there's kind of on the public works side, and then there's on the park and recreation side as well. So really encourage people, if you're looking for, or your child, or
Yes, right.
grandchild is looking for some
Exactly.
summer employment. It's really a great opportunity. It's a a good work environment, positive, safe work environment. They get good work experience. I think it's something that looks pretty good on your resume if
You bet.
you've worked for a city. So something to consider, and all those opportunities are available on our website.
All right, take a look there. Some things thinking at the pools, the new Central Park. I know they
Yep.
need people, even Town Green, some of those events. So
Yep.
take a look at the website. Heidi, thank you very much again for your
You're
time and
welcome.
all the information. And again, if you want to go to the city's website, let's leave you with that right now so you can dial in and find all of this great information. You see it at the top of the screen, maplegrovemn.gov. Next council meeting will be on Monday, March 21st, 7:30 at the Government Center. Phone number again at the bottom of the screen. And if you have any questions or comments about the program here, you can certainly call our viewer response line 533-1710. For Heidi Nelson, I'm Dave Kaiser. Thanks for joining us on the Maple Grove City Report.